got it going. With the spin of the wheel, we'll uncover our fate and stream it to you on one take. We tend to be loud and we fight quite a bit, but it's an unscripted show, so you get what you get. If we stop to right now and we just walked away, we'd be back here next week, cause we just can't wait to play.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another ARG event. I'm your good buddy, your good pal, Amigo Aaron, joined by the sickest man on earth. I give you the Brent.
Everybody.
How you feeling, the Brent?
I'm doing okay. I'm on the up and up.
Listen, you've got enough gold bricks to make a pyramid by now. Would you stop calling in sick and show up for work?
All right, blindy.
Listen, but I was legitimately blind.
What was I legit? What I was faking the COVID test?
Yes, I think you probably were. Hey, look, you finally passed the test. Well done.
It took long enough.
With all that said, that's just all that means, ladies and gentlemen. It's giving us extra time to be extra super prepared for this week's. Why are you scoffing? For this week's subject. Because several months ago, we spun the wheel and we made the deal, and the deal was made. And this week, on ARG Presents, we're going to be playing 2D Saturn games, the old Sega Saturn, Brad. Now, 2D Sega Saturn games, it gives you a pretty good amount of games to play. I don't know how you picked yours, but I know how I picked mine. But before we get into the games that we picked, I want to talk about the belief. Because there is a belief out there, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but there's a belief that the Saturn was the pinnacle of 2D console gaming. Graphically, audible, the gameplay, the control. Where do you put the Sega Saturn's 2D? Because we're not going to say that the pinnacle of 3D.
Right.
There's a 0% chance of that. But it did have, the one thing about the Sega Saturn is that they put every conceivable type of chip in there.
Yes.
Something will work. 2D, 3D, 4D, they got them all in there. 1D. So where do you think the Sega Saturn library falls in the galaxy of 2D gaming?
Very, very high.
Uh-huh.
Very, very high. I would say, definitely in the top three. My top three would be Neo Geo, Super Nintendo, and Sega Saturn.
I see. And why those? Like, why those in particular? Because, and also, what are your criteria for the pinnacle of 2D gaming? Is it all graphics and sound?
Yes.
If there are plenty of great 2D games on like 8-bit computers and on the NES and on the ColecoVision.
If you don't want to look at it from a historical point of view, there are 2D masterpieces that are being produced today.
Right.
There's indie stuff that just blows your mind at how good the animation stuff is.
That's true.
But when I think 2D, in my opinion, it has to be before 3D came to domination. Because there were tons of machines that could do both really well. Dreamcast, I'm talking about during the conversions.
Yeah.
But when you didn't have a focus on 2D gaming, and a lot of people were saying 3D's the future. Of course, they were correct. It took away from a lot of the 2D artists that were out there. They weren't getting the same kind of work that they were, the 2D animators, all that stuff. So I think personally, in the realm of before the transition, but up far enough where you could get, thousands of colors on screen and butter smooth animation, stuff like that. Very important to me when it comes to 2D graphics.
For me, so here I'm going to say something rather controversial.
All right.
2D gaming sucks. No, I'm just kidding. What I'm going to say is the Sega Saturn, it doesn't do it for me.
Okay.
All right.
Is there a reason?
Yeah, because I don't like a lot of the games, if I'm honest.
Okay.
When I jacked my Saturn, and boy, I jacked it good, brother. I got one of those Finbriers, big money CD-ROM replacements. Now, of course, they've got that cartridge you can get for like $30. Whoops, I should have waited a year, whatever. But got a Finbrier, so I loaded this thing up with all the Saturn.
Right.
I'm like, I'm going to sit down and go through this sucker. Well, don't get me wrong. There's some good titles on there. There's some Japanese stuff that I haven't played before. I'm not saying I played every title.
Sure.
But there just wasn't the amount of titles on the Saturn that appealed to me as I was at 2 or 3D as something like the PlayStation, for example, which I found way more stuff on the PlayStation I was interested in than the Saturn. I thought, and some of the stuff on the Saturn, the 3D stuff was not that good, frankly. A lot of it. And now, with all that said, hold on, hear me out. There are some standout things that the Saturn did. There are pinnacle level of stuff, and I'll get to go into stuff like the arcade translation of fighting games, the Capcom stuff. I think is quite outstanding. You know, did stumble across some really excellent shoot 'em up, some shmups I thought were quite good. But you mentioned your top 3. Then someone mentioned the PS2 in chat. See, that's another system. I've got a PS2. It's jacked up, but I really haven't spent a lot of time playing it. So I can't say where it falls amongst the top systems. I can only talk about the ones I know about. But for me, I think the Neo Geo is way up there.
It is.
Because it did have great sound. It did have great gameplay. It did have great, I like fighting games. It had great fighting games, shmups. But the one thing it had was some brilliant artists that worked on it. Some really artistically well done games. I mean, and it had a girth of games, a ton of games that appeal to me, way more than the Saturn does. So I would put the Neo Geo ahead of the Saturn, despite the fact that clearly the Saturn is more advanced. It has a more advanced chipset in it for gaming. But I mean, I think the amount of games that I liked that fall into the realm of 2D, I would say the Neo Geo would be certainly near the top.
Well, if it was games that I played, it would definitely be the Super Nintendo by a country mile, because there are so many incredible games on the Super Nintendo that was 2D masterpieces in platformers and adventure games and action games. For Neo Geo, I think they're sports titles. They've got great scaling. I think for the Saturn, it's the color palette is really nice. And I think a lot of talented artists, more so than even the other two systems, lived in the Saturn, because I think as 3D came into view, a lot of 2D artists and stuff got compressed on where they were able to go for work, and I think a Saturn picked up a lot of those folks.
I think you're right, especially I know in the 8-bit world and then 16-bit world, when things started going into 3D, it was a rough time to be a pixel pusher.
Yeah.
And I've heard that firsthand from a number of interviews I've heard from people talking about it. So yeah, it's definitely desperate times. I also want to throw in the mix, I'm not the SNES guy that you are, but I do have a jacked TurboGrafx, and that, as a 2D system, that's a great system. You've got all those great shmups in there, plus all the other stuff that comes with it. I think I'm not going to say it's underrated now, because I think people are on board, but I mean, that was an 8/16-bit, it was a little juggernaut of a machine. Now, does it compete with a Neo Geo in terms of what it can push? Absolutely not. But I think it's a good machine. I think, well, with all that said, we're not saying, at least I'm not, that the Sega Saturn doesn't have games that are near the top of the list of 2D, especially conversions of stuff like D&D, the D&D arcade games.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean,
the Capcom stuff. They're all tippity top shelf. They pulled it off, and they surpassed the PlayStation on those titles.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, we're going to give the devil its due there. But as the years roll on, and I think this is it's not Saturn's fault, but people don't care as much about those as they used to, because now they can play the arcade version if they want to.
Well, and also, huge shout out and credit to people who are doing sprite pushing now in the indie scene and stuff. Yeah. Some of the stuff they're putting out is mind blowing.
It is.
And you can't play it all.
Yeah.
And God knows I try, but you can't play it all.
Yeah.
So
the indie scene, when it comes to 2D, they're the man now.
Yeah.
And they picked up and even going back and putting those new games on old machines, they're surpassing what I thought was possible machines that are long dead. So I'll
Sure.
give them credit for that too. It's nice to be able to take, especially if you're someone that's into that, to limit yourself to making games for a certain chipset or machine and be able to blow people's minds about what, look at that. Remember when we looked at the Pinball Dreams on the Amstrad? It's a perfect example of a system that shouldn't have been able to do it, but it did it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, it always blows my mind.
Absolutely.
When you see something like that. So, with all that said, we were tasked to look or pick out 2 games from the Saturn library. It's funny, like I said, I'm not a Saturn aficionado by any stretch of the imagination, but I had a game picked out pretty quick this time around.
You cheated.
How do you figure?
You said that you picked a game that you saw somebody else playing.
No, I've never seen it played, but I heard it talked about on a podcast. And so when I heard
Same
about
difference.
it, no, it's not. I guess I'll lead the dance.
Oh, no, you're not.
Oh, do you want to go first?
I'm going first.
All right. What do you bring to the table? Tell the people, because I will say without a doubt, I had never heard of this game ever.
I went with, someone asked me, he's like, hey, play a shooter.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, shooters. Lots of good shooters on the Saturn. I'm going to play a shooter. So
You could have fooled me at the beginning anyway.
the Keio Flying Squadron was a 2D shooter that was out. It was out in the arcades and the Sega brands. And
That was an arcade game?
Yeah, it had actually a wide release.
All right.
I was like, oh, this game has a sequel that is a Saturn exclusive. So I looked at Keio Fighting Squadron 2. It's not a shooter.
Well, no, there
is shooting, but it's not a shooter.
There's a shooter in there. If you get far enough in,
Right,
I did.
But
I got
it's not
there.
a shooter. It's a
little bit of everything.
action platform.
Yeah, it is mostly.
So, well, the other game was just a shooter. So what we have here is a sort of Dragon Ball type storyline.
The storyline for this, the opening, it's got about a 2 or 3 minute opening animation.
It does, and it's all full motion anime. Well, we need to step back for a second. We're going a little. We're rushing into this a little bit. We're rushing into this a little bit.
All right.
First, we have to talk about where this was released.
Okay, I'm guessing not here.
This got a Japanese release,
yeah,
of course, and a European PAL release, and that's it.
Okay.
It was only ever released for the Saturn. And Keio Fighting Squadron was a fairly popular game. So I thought, man, that's a really odd. Why did they do that? And I don't have the answer to that question.
Maybe Sega negotiated a deal, like an exclusive.
I guess that's possible. I do not know.
Well, I got a question before you get too far into it. Since the animation at the beginning was all in English, is that the PAL version?
I played the PAL version.
Okay, mine I must have as well, because mine was in English.
If you try to pick this game up nowadays, like the Japanese version, I mean, it's out there.
Yeah.
It's a little bit pricey, but it's available. If you want the PAL version, break out the wallet, fellas, because it's a huge money dump.
It seems to be a trend when it comes to these Saturn games.
So this, like I said, this was never made it to the U.S. I honestly had no idea what to expect going into this because I thought it was going to be a shooter. Obviously, before I picked it proper, I did discover that no, it is a platformer. And really, that might be why this did get a Euro release, because this is a Euro-style platformer through and through.
Well, not entirely, but yeah, it does have elements, just for sure.
It says, man, what has Euro-style platformers done wrong for all those years, right? And it fixes it. There are tons and tons of things you can collect, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
There are alternate routes, but you don't have to follow them. It is, you get to the end, it's one-hit kill unless you've picked up an item. If you've picked up a weapon or something and you get hit, you'll drop the item instead. You play as Keio, which is this rabbit-dressed anime character in all her cuteness and hotness, whichever you might prefer.
I wouldn't say hot.
Well,
I would say cute. She's in a Playboy Bunny outfit.
Right,
But I
right.
mean, yeah. She's goofy as the day is long.
She is, exactly. So is tasked with running through the world, and she wants to collect all of these. They're not Dragon Balls, but they basically do the Dragon Ball stand-in equivalent. If you get 6 of them, you get to make a wish. And it's
remember the game we played where you played the hand on the N64 Glover? Remember that? Remember the ball Glover had? It looks like the ball Glover had if the colors were inverted. It's like a star with a stripe around it.
Oh, you mean the Dragon Ball stand-ins?
No. Oh, yeah, that's what I guess. I don't know. I didn't get Dragon Ball out of this. So.
Oh, no, well, I mean, this is, dude, that's exactly what this is.
Let me, before we jump in again.
Okay.
Because we've got to talk about this opening. And I'll explain the opening. So this family's sitting in this hovel.
Yeah.
And they're all a bunch of geeks. And including the little girls in the hovel, too.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, this chick shows up and goes, I need this, and yoinks that ball out of there and it runs off.
Yeah.
And they're like, what just happened? And the dad's like, you can't let her take that. Like, time to get in the costume. And so he goes like, brr, and he jumps up in the air, and suddenly the dad's in the bunny outfit.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, and they screwed up. So then the girl gets in the bunny outfit. And about that time, you see the girl that stole the ball, like, basically get hosed by this giant raccoon, in a flying boat. And the boat's like, I'll take that. Screw you, the raccoon. And the little girl in the bunny outfit gets up to the boat. It's like, hey, you can't take that. He's like, well, I'll give you something back. And he drops a bomb on the house and blows it up where her parents are at. They're all mauled. They're not dead. They're called, it's like cartoon mauled.
Yeah.
And then you start the adventure of trying to get back the balls.
Yes.
So that's, but you got to talk about that because, I mean, this was goofy.
Well,
it was funny, though. I enjoyed it.
All the animated sections, because you get one in between every level.
Yeah.
Really push you to try to get farther in the game because they're fun to watch. The platform on this is pretty standard. I would call it fairly standard fare. I don't think there's anything.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty clever, actually.
Some parts of it. I don't think any of it was particularly difficult.
Yeah.
It has bonus stages where you can get plus or minus score, and I'll talk about that in just a second. And then you've got some variety of stages, such as you do get a couple shooting stages as you go throughout the game. That is very reminiscent of the prequel to this.
I did make it to one of those. I was so proud of myself.
Yeah. And the flying sections are fairly generous. They're not over the top.
I lost
crazy
more
hard.
lives there than I did in the platforming until after that. Then I lost a lot of lives.
And the game itself is very to defeat your enemies, you can either use your weapon or jump on their head. 95% of the time. The levels, while not completely linear, there are not so many branching paths that you don't know what's going on for the most part. So playing through it feels good. There's tons and tons of things to pick up. That when you collect X amount of them, you'll get an extra life. And the enemy variety is fairly decent. The graphics are really slick.
They're real good.
I thought they were really attractive.
Yeah, I agree.
Animations were good.
Yeah.
Sound is okay.
But yeah, I liked it.
Of course, the video is dubbed in English, so I can't really
And the video is
comment
a
on
little
that.
grainy, but I mean, it was a sign of the time.
It is full motion video.
Yeah.
It's not. They don't restrict you to a little box.
It's several steps up from the Sega CD.
Yeah. So I mean, I found this to be a fairly entertaining and fun game. I really didn't get frustrated at any point. I did get to the point. This was when I was starting to feel sick, so I did get to the point where I had my fill.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready to move on. One thing that this game does that I thought was very unique is they have sort of a morality system where if you beat up bad guys who are trying to hurt you, you get plus points. And if you beat up bad or good guys or break good guy things like signs or shop fronts or stuff like that, you'll actually lose points.
I never gained points. I was shot everything. I didn't realize it was too late what was happening.
And the way this works is when you end, it has rewards based on if you are plus up to 500 or down to negative 500.
Yeah.
All the negative rewards are hints on the game of how you can do better, secret parts of this stage that you can get more points, that kind of stuff. And then on the reverse side of it, the good side of it, you can unlock concept art. You can unlock extra scenes of the family and crap like that, all the way up to a plus 500 is like a quote unquote swimsuit picture, which is not sexy at all. But it's all a reward. You can completely ignore it, and that's fine, or it gives you something to work for after you've already played the game and got through it. So I thought that was pretty neat. Aaron, overall, what did you think of this?
I really like this one a lot. In fact, it's funny. These games are actually, despite their total differences, they have many similarities in the platforming parts. But this game, I had no idea what to expect at all. So I came in completely without ever seeing it, hearing of the game, or playing it. And I really thought it was clever and cute. The platforming I thought was fun. I didn't lose a single life until I got to the flying stage. I thought I was doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And then I lost a lot there. And then after that, eventually, so this game has color and style to beat the band.
Yeah.
It's got beautiful backgrounds. When you're on the flying stage, you can look at the background and see these two people running along on the opposite shore in front of the cityscape, trying to look with their faces a gap, trying to figure out what's happening. Like, what's going on over here? The enemies are cool looking. It's almost got a little ninja baseball, ninja whatever baseball. That goofy, whatever the name of that thing is. I can't remember. But some of the enemies reminded me of that. Like the platforming was tight, brother. I had no problems controlling the girl. I had the weapons. Took a little while to figure out exactly what you're doing, because you can throw them, and they're these hammers or umbrellas or a few other different.
And they have extra, like the umbrella will let you float.
Yeah, and this thing has cool like the enemies were the boss enemies were interesting. They were real bizarre, some of them, but they were fun. Eventually, after you go through the stage where you're flying the first time, you go to the sumo hall, and the chick goes in there, and the sumos are lined up to fight. They're like, "You're not allowed in here. There's no girls in the sumo hall."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Screw you, like fat boy," or whatever. Then she fights her enemy right there in the sumo ring, which was cool. The level after that where she gets on this train, that level was brutal. Man, I went through lives there like just going out of style, but it was still fun. And I did notice I was getting better. I wouldn't call this a puzzle platformer, but it's it approaches the puzzle in terms of your approach to getting places. I wouldn't say it's puzzly, but you have to pre-plan your routes and stuff because it can be a little weird to get to certain places.
Sometimes you have to jump off the heads of enemies to get to places, yes.
You'll also see things you can't quite reach and you won't know how to get there. Sometimes you can come back around and get there, and sometimes you can't. I thought the sound in this was quite good. I really enjoyed that. Okay. I thought it was good. I thought it was because during when she's doing stuff, she's always blabbing. Like goofs in the background are blabbing. When you're in the stage where you're flying, there's some guy going fire, fire. It's this old man dancing up down with his banner. You go smack him, shut him up. I thought it was good. It has options that you can fiddle around with the controls stuff. I just used the standard controls. I played this on the Mister without any problem, and I was surprised how much I enjoyed this one. I mean, and when you talk about good-looking 2D platformers, I mean, I don't know what you need. It's beautiful, well drawn.
Yep.
It plays and moves great.
Yep.
And is fun.
Yep.
So I would call this a big winner.
Yeah.
And since I've never heard of it, it's a double winner.
So I'm guessing that you never played the shooter of this?
God, no. I never would have heard of it.
Yeah, same main character, and it's very reminiscent of the flight stages that are in this game. You can definitely tell they were trying to mimic the first game. It did well.
I give them credit too. If the first one was just a flight game or a shoot 'em up, like clearly they went outside their wheelhouse on this one, And they, let me tell you something, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They got it down. This right here, this level we're looking at now in the video where she's avoiding the ladders and stuff, that's exactly as far as I got in this before I finally tapped out. But I felt like for someone who hadn't played it that much, and I will say, I didn't plan on playing this for hours and hours, but I gave this just as much attention as I gave my game, just because it was a lot of fun, and I wanted to see what was next. And you're right, they didn't reinvent the wheel, but they took solid approaches to tried and true platform stuff, and made it work. And then they put it they wrapped it in the world of this little girl and her wacky adventure. And it worked out. It worked out real well. I really enjoyed it.
Yep. I agree. This is one never, of course, has been released anywhere else.
Yeah.
I
wonder why. That's crazy.
I don't know.
Why would you not release this here? It's already translated to English. It was good to go.
Well, I don't know. I can't answer that.
This is one people should look up. I did get a review on this, Brent, if you're interested in hearing it.
Absolutely.
Pajako chimed in on this one. He says, "This isn't what I was expecting. I thought it was going to be a scrolling shooter like its predecessor, which I went back and played a little of. We start off with a crazy animated intro, which had me laughing my butt off. Shortly after that, you are straight into a very cute and colorful platformer. Now, don't let the looks deceive you. This can be a punishing game if you aren't careful. And while it might initially feel like a speedy Sonic game, it is not. You always have to take things carefully. I found that parts of this quite tense to play because I lost my weapon. I knew the next hit was going to lose a life." That is, he's got a valid point. If there was anything I would add, this is like maybe give you, the weapon gives you one free shot, but it would be nice to get a little extra. Anyway, Pajako continues. But this game is not just a standard platformer. There is so much variety, including at least one shooter level that is a nod to the original game. And I can see a roller coaster level coming up that looks fun. And the boss fights are fun as well. I really want to play more, and only stopped because it was late and I had to go to bed. Plus, I want to see more of this wacky storyline. The only very minor complaints I had are that I couldn't seem to put down the bow, and jumping on the green duck thing's heads is a little too fiddly at times. Also, I could not figure out the point system up to the top right, which that's what you were talking about with the plus and minus. Sound, playability, graphics, variety of gameplay, and a fun storyline. Keio Flying Squadron 2 really has it all. 9 out of 10 on that one. So, ringing endorsement. And I would say, I would agree with that. I thought it was outstanding. I know the part he's talking about where you're trying to jump on those things. It's just a standard platformer bit. But, you get used to it. I didn't have any problems with the controls on this at all. I picked it right up. And I like it when you jump into a game and you instantly don't feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
You know? So that's always a nice touch.
Yeah, and this score, just to wrap all this up, talk about a wide berth here. Everything from a 56 out of 100 to a 92
Who
out of 100.
gave it a 56?
A Sega Saturn magazine of Japan.
What? What did they want?
Just, there you go.
56?
Yeah.
Those idiots. Talk about undermining your own machine. Good Lord.
So, Aaron, I brought gold to the program, something we can all enjoy and go back and play again.
Yeah.
What did you bring?
So, I didn't know what I was going to play at first, if I'm honest. But I remembered, I was looking through lists and looking at videos and stuff, and I remembered a long time ago, our buddies over on Pixel Gaiden had talked about a game. Now, of course, Pixel Gaiden doesn't really have much of a video component. They've got a channel, but they don't have, it's not like this show where you watch them play stuff or whatever.
Sure.
But they had talked about games for Saturn one time. They'd mentioned a game called Shinobi Legions. Now, Shinobi, everyone knows about Shinobi. In fact, we owned a Shinobi board for a while for the arcade machine.
For a small amount of time, yeah.
And Shinobi was a pretty popular series with a lot of games. And that's funny, with the exception of the arcade game, I don't think I'd ever played any Shinobis at all at home.
Really? Okay.
It just, I don't know. And then the arcade didn't do much for me. It was fun to pitch those throwing stars, but the rest of the game didn't do it for me. So, but I'd heard them talking about Shinobi Legions and the fact that it had digitized characters like Mortal Kombat. That was all I needed, brother. So I was like, I'm going to try that. So that's what I picked. So this is Shinobi Legions, or if you're in Europe, it's known by the much cooler name Shinobi X. And if you're in Japan, it's Shinobi Den. This was released in Japan on the 30th of 95. In North America, we got it in September of 95, and in Europe, they got it in October. So not too far apart on that one. So just right out of the gate, and before I forget to mention it, Shinobi X is one of these rare titles, or Legions. One of these rare titles where, for whatever reason, when they went to port this to Europe, they didn't like the music that was included with it, and so they changed it. So if you've got the PAL version of this, you've got the only one that's got the exclusive music. It's more of a Euro dance trash type soundtrack that blows. But some people prefer it, and what it's done is it's raised the cost of that game considerably from the other two. In fact, you can get this for a song in Japan. We'll get back to that. So, of course, I don't know if everyone knows the storyline of Shinobi. I didn't know it, and I don't think it has much bearing on this. It's sort of got its own sort of storyline. So, the long story short is, there are these three ninjas that have been brought up by this master, right? And he has these three kids that carry on the ninja tradition. There were two brothers, Kazuma and Sho, and his own daughter, Aya, okay, the master's daughter. So he trains him. 15 years later, Kazuma's like, I'm sick of this crap. I'm out. All I care about is power. And so the other
We've
two,
all been there.
Yeah, the other two keep training. And then eventually, this guy's like, he's like, I want to learn the ultimate technique. And the master's like, take off. I'm not doing that. And so he's like, all right, I'll take care of you one of these days. And so flash forward to the time when this game starts, Kazuma has kidnapped Aya. Master's dead at this point. And so it's like, hey, Sho, screw you. I've got the girl. If you want to stop me, come find me. Like, basically, like, I'm going to smack her around, whatnot. And there you go. Of course, he's got an army and a bunch of power. He's the usual jerk guy. So that's where the game starts off. Now, this game, I'm going to show my hand right now. I love this game. And for a bunch of Aaron-related reasons, okay? When I was a kid, and really to this day, I'll sit down and watch the cheesiest Japanese and actually more like Hong Kong karate and kung fu movies you can find. I loved them all. I love Five Deadly Venoms, like the Flying Guillotine, the whole 9 yards. I loved them. And I like the cheesier the better. And so I knew I was in business when this game opened up. With this, and it starts off with just a scene of like Sho, like going like, ho! He just like runs into a room. I'm like, oh, what was that? It was a little cutscene. That's kind of neat. And then you start the game. So the game, and again, not playing a whole lot of this newer Shinobis. I don't have any reference, so I can't tell you how this plays with the other Shinobis. Like in terms of like, I know the other ones have more of a projectile element than this one has more of a hand-to-hand element. I've read that. So in this game, you play a Sho. Now, this is a beat 'em up slash platformer where you control Sho. Sho has a sword. He's got throwing like knives. He doesn't have shurikens this time. He's got throwing knives, and he's got ninja magic. All right, you gotta have it. And so in this game, it's all Mortal Kombat style digitized characters with some added artistic renderings of other stuff in the backgrounds. The backgrounds
all
are...
the characters are.
All the characters are, but some of the backgrounds are too, like the trees and some of the buildings and stuff, and some of the different stuff. And so you'll run, jump, and sword play your way level to level. Okay, there's 9 levels. And in between the levels are the most luxurious cutscenes ever put to film. These are double cheese with an additional bonus cheese. And a lot of times, I mean, the dialogue it's the acting. Even though you don't speak Japanese, it's like the room level bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's not dubbed, but it's subbed.
It's crud, is what it is. But it's good. It's so good. Including there are cutscenes where they're actually filmed the battles. So there's some martial arts scenes in the game.
Yeah.
So throw that out. We'll come back to those. Let's talk about the game proper. So the first level of this game starts you out in like this wooded area, bamboo woods. And you think to yourself, okay, this seems pretty straightforward. What can this guy do? Well, he can sword you. he can hit you with a blade. He can jump up in the air and throw blades down, and he can also swing block. Blocking in this is important because you get to use the cool ninja trick of death, where you block the other sucker's gimmick and it shoots back at it, which I love that. And that's a pretty big element in the game. The first level is straightforward. You run through the level, and at the end of it, you fight a boss, and then you're out. Not that tough. There are pickups in the game. There are soul balls. I'm a soul ball. Yeah. And soul balls, these blue balls. If you get 10 soul balls, you get extra life. You can also get little things that will give you extra energy. They're these little yellow balls. Then you can get different levels of. You can augment your shurikens. You don't have unlimited, so you've got to get more of them. And you can get 1 or 5, and you'll go through them quick. The good thing is you can go into the options in this are great. You can change the difficulty. You can change how many men you got. You can also change how many of those shurikens you start off with. So I put it on 100. How about I can have a ton? I was shuriken everybody in this thing.
Even though the game shames you for using them.
I don't care. I feel no shame. So on top of that, you got your ninja magic, okay? The ninja magic's pretty wild. So the first one you get is Bishamon. Now I was listening to a guy talk about this guy. Bishamon apparently is just is a spirit of kill everything. That's what he does. When you get this, when you pick up this power, your guy goes oh, and he gets in a stance. Even if he's in midair, he goes, oh, and then the screen glows, and this huge guy appears behind you like a statue. And everywhere you go in the level and sword, that guy, the image of that guy will appear in your area. Sometimes multiple images. And if any of the bad guys touch the image, it does damage to him. So he's pretty powerful. There's also the Thunder Dragon. The Thunder Dragon basically is I guess what just sounds just like what he is. He's a big, huge boss, and he shoots. When he comes on the screen, it's a big dragon, and lightning comes down from him because despite the fact he's not the lightning dragon. And then you can also get an invincibility thing. So that's sort of your ninja powers. So as you run through the levels, also sometimes you'll kill these guys, and they'll drop either a soul ball, or sometimes they'll drop a bomb, which apparently this is something you see a lot in the Shinobi series. I guess they drop bombs. So once you roll through the first series, this is pretty standard fare. But what you find out about this game is on top of the digitized coolness, on top of the crazy cutscenes, the game is diverse as hell. These levels are not, you're not going to get bored. Not the ones I went through. And I went through over half the game. The second level has you jumping up through the woods. And so you're jumping up on these trees and you're fighting in the trees. And of course you've got ninja powers that help you grab on the stuff and pull up. Then he can do the Prince of Persia gimmick where he can bounce back and forth between the walls. He's a nimble dude. He's a ninja, right? And so on the second level, you're running up through the trees, which is it was real fun. I really enjoyed that level quite a bit. It was because you never exactly know where you're going. And then and there were 3 bosses. Each one of these levels have sort of mini bosses. It's different mini bosses. Usually they'll introduce them in the cutscene, and then you get to see them. You get to fight them. The third level is you could have picked my jaw up off the ground with a shovel. As I walked into what they call the bio lab level, and the first surprise is you walk up. There's these tanks, and you hit the tank, and they blow up, and there'll be a gargoyle in them. Okay, gargoyle. All of a sudden, I walk up, and here's a guy who turns around carrying a bazooka.
Yeah.
I felt like I couldn't believe it. I felt like the Fistful Yin guy. My eyes were I was like, oh my God. So you jump over him, and he shows up a lot. But that's nothing compared to what comes next. So I dispatched that guy, and I'm standing there, and all of a sudden, a brontosaurus, his whole head careens down to the screen. I was like, bro. You have to whack a brontosaurus. So you're fighting dinosaurs, at least in part of this game. Could you? Did you know about that before it happened?
No. And the thing is once that happens, it's never brought up again.
No, he comes back a couple times, but it's a pretty cool head. He comes out to give you the business. I laughed. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I was so funny. So once you get past that level, and again, at the end of these levels, you'll fight guys that have one guy spins around like a human tornado, and one guy could disappear real quick, and one guy has like you go into this room and he's got these two statues that shoot lasers at you.
Yeah, they all have their little
But
gimmick.
the bosses are good. They're
Yeah,
good
they're pretty
bosses.
good.
They're good bosses. And then, like at the end of the bio lab level, you fight a giant gargoyle like creature, which you should have fought a dinosaur. They dropped the ball on that one. And then you're in a mansion. You're in an undersea cave. There's a mountain level. I didn't get to the mountain level. That's as far as I got. There's Chinatown, and ultimately the ending result. But the levels really are different. That's what I liked about the game. The levels were diverse. You had you doing different things, and they were they kept it fresh. It's not what I would call a long game. You could probably, if you were good enough at it, you could probably whiz through it. If you
About
owned
an
it,
hour.
yeah. Oh no, it'd be more than that. Probably like 2 hours. And I don't know if you can skip the cutscenes, but that'd be a crime against humanity. But there's one great scene where you finally free the girl, and you're all sitting on this beach, and she goes, "Listen," she goes, "I'm going to tell you how to use the ultimate power," And she tells the guy, and right after he tells the guy, Sho gets hit in the leg. He's like, "Ow!" And these three ninjas pop out of nowhere, and he goes, "Ha ha! We heard everything!" And they grab the chick, and then they all jump into the water. And then your guy, who just took a shot in the leg, he's in full ninja gear with the sword stuff. He does the most insane dive off this rock. He jumps out like a maniac, and then swan dives in because he's a ninja. Yeah. It's brilliant stuff. There's so much good stuff in the cutscenes. I really, really enjoyed this. Was this the quality of platformer that yours was? It was awful good. And I got further in this one than I did in yours, so I can't comment. But I mean, I would put it on par. Was the graphic fidelity of this? Does this have beautiful hand-drawn graphics? It does not. But it does something that Mortal Kombat desperately attempted over and over and failed with its Sub-Zero spinoff, Shao Kahn. This is an actual digitized character that moves well. The other digitized stuff looks good. Now, every once in a while, he'll fight a guy, and he looks way, unnaturally smaller. Yeah. So they didn't quite get all the matchups right. But, I mean, it's got everything going for it. And when you can make a game that has this kind of art in it and plays well, I think you got a real winner. What did you think?
I definitely did not enjoy this as much as my game. But it was fun. It was fun. It was ludicrous. Much like my game, you want to complete the stages to see where the story goes to next. Because the cutscenes... Do you think they were trying to play those cutscenes straight?
Yes, that's what makes it better. Because I can tell. You can tell when someone's phoning them in just to be funny. They were trying. And I've seen enough movies from Japan and stuff, and schlock. And the thing is, they did this. There are levels in Japan. In America, too. So, there are levels. In Japan, they probably made this. When they made this game, they probably made it with kids in mind. They didn't think... a 50-year-old guy, a 47-year-old guy are going to sit around watch this thing and try to take it seriously. It never occurred to them. That's why they didn't spend... Look, you've seen Godzilla movies and stuff. This is Godzilla-level acting at its finest.
Well, so, just to spoil it a little bit.
Oh!
Because I watched the entire...
I did, too.
I had plenty of time.
I had to see it.
I watched both games to completion.
Yeah.
And wow.
Oh, wow. I didn't see the other one.
My game to completion had... some semblance of a story, and the character learned something along the way, blah blah blah, all that good stuff that you want in a story.
Yeah.
This game was vastly different, and it had
the guy gets dumber as it goes.
It had first of all, remember the woman that you keep trying to save.
Yeah.
Should be just as good at martial arts as you are.
I assumed she was drugged. Because she wasn't worth a crap. She landed one blow in the entire game. This guy's got her handcuffed and he's giving Sho the business. He's like, "You're a big duper. She's all mine." And she swings around and double axe handles him in the face. And then the guy throws a sword and kills him. That's in a cutscene. Yeah. It was great.
Yeah. So, that part's a little confusing because, I mean, she literally, outside that one little bit, is worthless.
I assume she's beat down and drugged up. That's my guess.
So
that's how I do it.
Because she holds the key to the ultimate technique.
Yeah.
Now, Aaron, what was the ultimate technique?
The ultimate technique is the blending of spirits between a man and a woman. That's the ultimate technique.
Love.
Well, I mean, they didn't say that.
It's love.
But the thing is, here's the thing I don't understand about the ultimate technique, okay? So, the bad guy used his machine to suck away the ultimate technique out of her body.
Yeah.
But at the end, she just told Sho, she's like, you now have the ultimate technique, like, go for it. How did that happen? How did he get the ultimate technique? They weren't even together. So, what's up with that? You know, that part was a little hazy.
Yeah.
I think they're setting up for a sequel.
No. What they were setting up for was exactly what we got.
What did you think about the cutscene where he has to fight the guys with the gas masks? That was another one because the guys beamed in. In fact, here it is right now. That's perfect timing. Those guys could teleport or something. Why did they do that in the game?
Yeah, the story on my game was not great, but at least it was coherent.
It was more straightforward.
The story in this game, although it had a couple cool fight moments in the cutscenes, was all over the map. But girl gets kidnapped, girl gets rescued, girl gets kidnapped immediately again.
I like the fact that the guy's like, we heard everything you said. Like, where were they?
So, and of course, at the ultimate ending, the very end, the bad guy has a sudden change of heart.
Yeah.
So
he saw the error of his ways.
It was all crap. So for the story wise, I gotta give it to my game. For graphics, although the digitized parts of the Legions was good.
Yeah.
I prefer the colorfulness of my game, and I think my game had overall better platforming. This had better action, but mine had better platforming overall.
Well, I mean, these two games have been pitted against each other by an act of God. They're not really in competition. I'll admit, there are things your game does that are more attractive or whatever. I mean, this game stands up on its own right, and they blend. There's a great blend of cheese involved here. This is like a blending of, you can get this 4 cheese pizzas. That's what this is. Even the fonts are cheesy. You know, the way they roll in. It looks like something you have to rewind your VCR if you play it. I mean, it's that kind of... And this, I will admit, this is a game, it was like they custom made it for someone like me. You know, it was perfectly blended for me.
In the end, both games were fun, and that's what matters.
Yeah, and I think they're two good examples of different sorts of 2D games that you can get on the Saturn that are like real diverse, but yet similar in a lot of ways. Like I said, some of the platforming elements of your game and this game, there were certain areas that I thought were similar. There's an area in this game where you're on these mine carts. It's another it's a great area. No, but I mean, it's great and hokey. That's what's great about it. I mean, this game, even the gameplay is fine, but even the in-game parts are hokey. We did get a review. Pajako also chimed in on this one to leave his view on it. And he writes, so there I was slicing suckers in half with a sword, and I thought I should really get around to playing Shinobi Legions for ARG. Jesus. Seriously, though, having never played or heard of it before, I loaded this up on the Mr. Saturn Core, and while I found the game a little tricky, I kept forgetting I could block. I really enjoyed playing it. I haven't gotten too far, only having reached the second boss and gotten myself killed so far, but I really felt it was me being bad at the game, not the game being cheap. Everything in this is really well put together, and yes, some of the pipework jumping is a bit tricky, but you get the hang of it eventually. I love that you can interact with the scenery and cut parts of it up, sometimes for power-ups too. The digitized graphics in this work really well, and the game is pretty fluid and runs well. But what makes this game really shine is the 70s style martial arts movie clips interspersing the levels. It really works for this game, and I am genuinely intrigued to see the end, although I do suck, so it'll take a while. Audio is pretty good, as you'd expect from a Sega console, so the whole package is there. If you haven't played this one before, spend a few evenings with it, you won't regret it. 9 out of 10. Double trouble on that, bro. We both got 9s out of 10s. And I will say, just to summarize Old Legions, I looked at some reviews of this for the magazines of the day. EGM gave this an 8 out of 10. EP Daily gave us an 8.5 out of 10. Famitsu which I think is a Japanese publication, give us a 26 out of 40. Next Gen didn't like this. They give it a 3 out of 5. Maximum 2 out of 5, and Sega Saturn Magazine 3 out of 5. But I did look amongst the Saturn fanboys and Shinobists out there. This game is the Legend of Zelda 2D scrolling platformer material. Whatever. Which one was that? You know, the one everybody hates. This is the one they all hate for Shinobi. Let me tell you something, Shinobists. Screw you. It's a good game. You know, you guys, this is the thing, not having played the other Shinobis extensively, I enjoyed this 50 times more than I had any right to, and I think it's a lot of fun. It just goes to show you that you can take these rendered, photographed graphics like Mortal Kombat and give it enough skill, and by the way, this was a Sega game, you can pull it off. If you want to pick this up, Brent, and I know I can see you reaching for your wallet, the United States version of this, you can get around $100, give or take. The Japanese version in the CD, normal size CD case, I saw it going for anywhere between $25 to $60. The European one, on the other hand, with the different music, and by the way, I did not listen to it to compare the music. I thought the Japanese one had pretty good music, but apparently it was different than the rest of the series, and so that's why it's another reason I don't like it. If you want the European version, you're going to be paying up at the $175 range. And I saw some going for well over $200 bills, Brent.
Insanity.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron, you know what's not insane?
No, I don't. Clearly not.
It's the wheel?
Oh, it's the wheel. Let's get fired up, man.
Now, Aaron, you added... what did you add?
Yeah, I think it's the games you can beat on 1 credit in the arcade. That's what I added.
Oh, games you can beat in 1 credit.
Who suggested that one to Brent?
Me, apparently.
You did? You're an idiot. You don't know your own game.
And the retro rewind for this week is 1985 NES game.
Beautiful.
So we got. Is there any minefields on here that we just?
Oh yeah, there always are.
Oh boy.
Here, let me hold it while you rev it.
No,
Are you gonna do it all?
No.
I thought you being sick at all. Get it in there. Get it in there. Pitch it down a little bit because of the glare. That's much worse. What'd you get? No one can see that.
We got.
And the winner is arcade games you can beat in 1 credit from you, the Brent.
There we go. On the wheel and off the wheel.
So we're going to try out. So we have to be able to personally beat these games on 1 credit.
That's correct.
That's going to greatly limit the.
And one loop is a successful beating of a game.
Well, that still limits it because some of the ones I can do that we've already played. So that could be a problem right there, but we'll give it a whirl. That'll be in a couple weeks, Brent. So next week, which will be this week, ironically, on the show, we'll be getting back into the realm of the Atari ST. The Atari ST, and by the way, this is gonna blow your mind. I'm gonna show you a couple things I've actually bought for the ST in the past couple weeks. I'm gonna bring them in here and show them to you. Yeah, I've bought some stuff for the ST, I know. And the game we'll be playing, Goblins. That's with 3 eyes. 3 eyes, Goblins. Which is a strategic...
So you're saying the Goblins have 3 eyes?
No, the name Goblins has 3 eyes. I don't know if that means it's Goblins. It's just Goblins with 3 eyes. I don't know why.
Is it maybe like Goblet and then the 3?
You got me.
Goblet 3 ends?
I think me and Bo gave this a roll on the Amigos a while back, and I think you might get into it. And me, we'll see. But yeah, that'll be Goblins. That'll be next week. And then 2 weeks, we'll be back to the ARG for some arcade games you can beat in 1 credit. Before we take to the house, just a little bit of housekeeping. I want to thank everyone who tuned in over the weekend for the International Computer Club meeting. This was International Computer Club X, number 10, Brent, if you can believe it. I was doing the math. In the 10 computer club meetings we've had, we've produced over 40 hours of content.
Woo!
Yeah, so we went 4 hours and 32 minutes this week. We had some excellent stuff in there, including some unbelievable breakthroughs on both the ZX Spectrum with Happy Coding and his crew with the Midnight Brewing outfit. And we also had some unbelievable graphical breakthrough. It's just a straight up breakthrough on the TRS-8 color computer, as demonstrated by L. Curtis Boyle, him and Nick Moranis have literally came up with a whole new, basically, graphics set for the Coco. That's quite remarkable.
Neat.
Yeah, it was very good. We also had very excellent appearances from all your favorites, including Adam from Computer Chronicles, our good buddy Pajako, always sends in reviews. Graham W. Vedke, Edvin Helen was there. Jason Warren's recapped the Coco 3 during the meeting.
Neat.
Yeah, so it was, and more, many more. So it was quite an event. And if you are looking to watch this, it's available right now on the YouTube channel, Amigos Retro Gaming. One last item of note, starting this Friday, Brent, which I believe is I'm going to make sure I know what day that is. This Friday, the 4th of October, Brent, it's all going down. Whenever October rolls around, you know what that means on our channel. It's time for the return of Conversations from the Dark Side. Myself and Rob Flack O'Hara will be back, Jack, this Friday evening for Conversations from the Dark Side. We would love to have you join us. I believe the topic this week, it's going to be a 2-hour show all about vampires. Should be a lot of fun, and we're researching and getting ready to go. If you're on the Discord and you'd like to send us some notes or experiences, anything, ghost stories, doesn't have to be about vampires. We'd love to have some material from the listeners. You can get on Discord and drop me a message, or if you are listening at home, and you can always drop me a message here at argpresents@mail.com for Conversations from the Dark Side, for ARG Presents, for any of our shows. argpresents@mail.com is the place to go.
You know, Aaron.
Yeah.
In my youth, I thought you were a vampire.
Why?
Well, and then I just found out you suck.
Oh,
say everybody.
That sucked.
We got it going. With a spin of the wheel, we'll uncover our fate and stream it to you all in one take. We tend to be loud and we fight quite a bit, but it's an unscripted show, so you get what you get. If we stopped it right now and we just walked away, we'd be back next week, 'cause we just can't wait to play.